while I was resting. Hello and welcome to While I Was Resting, the podcast in which we chat to actors, performers, musicians, artists, writers, creatives, whatever, about the jobs they do between their jobs in their chosen path. So today's guest is Paulus. Welcome, Paulus, to the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And before we get cracking talking about all the fascinating things you've done in your life, just for the listeners, a little introduction into yourself and what you do and who you are.
Well, I suppose most people will know me from a TV show called All Together Now, which was on the BBC for the last couple of years, which is a singing competition. But the USP of this singing competition is that there are 100 judges, and I was one of the judges. And I stood out a little more than some of the others because I never voted for any of the contestants. But actually, I've had a long career in the cabaret world, both in and out of drag. But I trained in musical theatre at drama school and have done a little bit of theatre and musical theatre as well. But I sort of went down this slip road of cabaret 30 years ago and I never went back up the road again. So yeah, that's what I do.
And what took you into the world of cabaret?
Well, I couldn't get a job, so I created one for myself. I left thrown out of drama school. I didn't graduate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was a 3-year course and I ran out of money. And 3 months before I should have graduated, they threw me out.
Did they throw you out because you ran out of money or because you were being
Well, that's
naughty?
that's a very good question, Jason. I'm aware that there was a boy in the year above me who had had similar problems financially, and they helped him and sorted out a payment plan, and they made sure he could stay and finish the course. They didn't do that with me. Unfortunately, the headmaster had just taken over the school and he was away for a really long period of time doing a training course or something, probably to be learning to be a headmaster, I don't know. So there was this huge, big period where I told them I didn't have any money and I hadn't paid for a month's, a term's course fees. But the people that had sort of been left in charge, given that he was away, were just like, oh, well, just stick around, and they just wouldn't make a decision, which meant I could stay longer, but it also meant I didn't really know what was going on. And then he came back, the headmaster, and went, have you got the money that you owe us? And I said, no. I've made that very clear for almost a year now that I haven't got the money, and then you have to leave now. Clear out your locker.
Like now?
Yeah.
Immediately?
Literally.
Get out!
No, he said, clear out your locker.
Did he do it in a theatrical way?
No,
like
he
Brian
didn't do
Blessed.
exactly.
Get out!
He wasn't theatrical or nice
It's
about
a little
it
disappointing.
at all.
Oh,
No,
don't do it very, Shakespearean.
No.
Be gone!
Yeah.
Oh, now, so of course, the subject of the podcast is we're talking about the things you do between your sort of cabaret engagements, your TV engagements.
Yeah.
Because over the course of a lifetime, for many performers, they've found themselves having to do jobs to fill in those gaps. It's very common. And so what spring to mind, some of the interesting or just bizarre things that you've done over the course of the years of your career?
When I was still at drama school, because I was, trying to, pay my way and make money, I got a job in a petrol station overnight.
Oh my God, I did that too.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah. It's horrible, isn't it?
It's horrible.
Yeah. What age were you when you did it?
20, it was straight after university. So I'd be about 23 or something like that, early
I was
20s.
I was 20, I think, or 21. And just to be there all night long till 6 a.m. in this. Well, I'm sure everybody's, experienced going to a petrol station when it's closed and, paying through the hatch and stuff like that. But there's a period at the beginning and the end of the shift when the door is open and people come in. That's
correct. Exactly the same for me. Yeah.
And it was frightening. It was winter and I didn't really know I didn't know what I was doing. I remember the training I had was about 2 minutes long as far as I can remember. And I obviously wasn't paying attention properly because they left, the person that was training me. And then the next car that came along to fill up with petrol, you're supposed to, well, you know this, you're supposed to press
a button to let them
sort of
fill
release
up.
or something. Yeah.
For security
I didn't know where the button was.
Oh, no.
I couldn't remember. So the very first thing that happened to me after the training man left was there was a queue. It was a queue of like 20 cars.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what to do. And they're all waiting for me to just press this button. It's absolutely terrifying. There were really scary people there, drunk people and people on drugs.
Yes.
And just,
I know, and because it gets to about 2 a.m. and people will come up to banging on the little glass compartment, demanding like cigarettes and it's great. Tell you what happened to me once. One guy, this was in the period before it closes for the night, walked in, and recently my mum had a car broken into and a handbag stolen. And he walked up and he handed me a credit card to pay for his petrol with. And I looked at the card and it was my mum's name.
No, it wasn't.
And I thought, oh, right. So I tried to be really cool and sneak off behind and phone the police.
In Morecambe, where you grew
Morecambe,
up,
yeah. And so I just said, I've just got to make a call because every so often we have to randomly, call the bank. Some sort of excuse I made. And he could see me kind of edging toward, and then he just legged it. And then I just sort of chased out and tried to get the number, and they just drove off in the car. So the police never caught them. But however, I did get a reward for catching the credit card.
Oh,
so I did get like 50 quid from the bank for retrieving a stolen creded card.
It's funny you should mention. I was at a venue yesterday, previewing my new show about Victoria Wood, and I was chatting to the because it's a restaurant as well where I was performing. I was chatting to the owners, and they said, "Oh, somebody came in the other day, two men, and they ordered a takeaway, and one of them was paying with the chip and pin machine, and the other one started to make a big fuss about some special on the specials board and trying to distract the person who was serving them. And when they left, they got their takeaway and they did leave. And what they were trying to do was they were trying to organise a refund on the PDQ of £800 because it was £8 that they were paying for. And whilst they were being distracted, the waiter, the other person had changed it to 800 and were trying the refund code, working on the assumption that it hadn't been changed. So they think it's a friend of an old member of staff.
All right.
And it's a scam that they go around doing in restaurants.
Who knew?
I know.
There's so many scams out there.
So many.
So many. You've got to be so careful all the time. So how long did you do that for in the petrol station?
I remember it was winter. I remember I was still at drama school and it was Christmas time because we were doing pantomime at drama school, and I was playing Abanazar in Aladdin, which is the baddie. So basically I was working from, I think it was 11 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning. And I was going home and getting 2 hours sleep and then getting up and going to drama school and rehearsing and then performing this pantomime in the afternoon. So I was literally working for a fortnight while we did panto. I was working on 2 hours sleep for most nights. And so I was playing the baddie, as I said. And people were like, well, you're so great at being this baddie. You're always so moody. I said, it's because I haven't slept, mate.
It's the method.
Yes,
method pantomiming.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I lasted in total about 3 months in that job, which is indicative of how very poor I was, because it was horrible. I really was very scared, not just unhappy. I was really scared doing that job.
Yeah, I think that's the worst thing about that job. I think every time you go to a petrol station and you come into one of those booths at night, just spare a thought for the poor person behind there and what kind of night they're having.
Yeah, and I was 20. I hadn't lived in London very long. I was, it was in London, and I was young and just like petrifying. Minimum wage.
Yeah, absolutely. So you left that.
I did, yeah.
And
got thrown out of drama school. Became a waiter.
A waiter?
Yeah.
That's a classic.
Yeah, well, my mum was in catering when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So in the 80s in Kent, you couldn't really get married or christened or die without her doing the vol au vents for it. And so I grew up around this all being done at home, the food and the, just 200 plates, 200 bowls, 200 salt and peppers. Everything was at our home because we did outside catering. So I helped from when I was really young, like filling up salts and peppers. And then by the time I was 15, I was running weddings for 200 people without her there because she was running another one.
That's quite a responsibility at 15 years old.
It is. It's blooming good training for any sort of performer to be in the hospitality industry.
Yeah, because when you put on a show, there's lots to organise, lots of behind the scenes things.
But
so
it also,
it's good training.
Yeah, it's very true. But it also means that I hope that people that work with me would say this is true of me. I think it stands you in good stead for remembering, if you are a performer, that you're not the only person there making it happen. You know, the front of house people, the bar staff, the techies, you know, you're all in this together. And just because you're the one that gets to go on stage in a spotlight and get a round of applause, you know, there are lots of other cogs turning.
Yes,
and it's important to remember that. So yeah, I swiftly became a waiter on Old Compton Street in Soho after I left drama school. And I was working at this place called The Dome, which used to be a chain of restaurants, but I don't think they exist anymore. And it was fine for most of the time. I worked with lots of people from other countries, so I worked with lots of Spanish people, and I learned lots of Spanish swear words. And lots of people that were really friendly, and we had a laugh, and I was good. It was good with customers. I could chat to people and make tips really well, and I would be really cheeky and sit on people's laps and flirt with them. I think I got a £50 note once just for sitting somebody at a nice table. Well, it's Americans for you, though, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
They're just insane when it comes to things like that. And I remember there was this homeless girl called Tracy, and she was the restaurant I worked in had sort of big sliding doors, like patio doors on the front of it. So in the summertime, you could be sort of outside and still be inside, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so Tracy would come to those people who were my customers and ask for money. And I must have seen Tracy on a daily basis for about 3 years while I worked there. And she would say the same thing to everybody she came up to. She would say, I'm raising money to get a train to Canterbury. I was like, how much do you think a train to Canterbury costs, Tracy? You've been doing this for 3 years, mate. I've given you enough money to get a train to Canterbury just to myself. Because what I used to do was I used to give her money out of my apron had my tip money in it. So I would give her money so that she'd leave my customers alone.
Yeah.
So it meant Tracy got some money, but it also meant that I'd, you know, looked after my customers, and so they gave me that money back plus some in tips. So between us, Tracy and I, everyone's a winner. So thanks for the tips, Trace.
Yeah. You're working tandem there. Yeah.
Which is really ironic because that's where I'm from.
Oh, really?
So I kept saying to her, "You don't want to go there, love.
No,
it's horrible.
pick a different destination at least,
a cheaper one, you know."
Yeah. So you did have, and I guess being a waiter in Soho, you're very kind of in the middle of the arts world there, you know.
Yeah, it's how I got my job at Madame Jojo's.
Really?
Yeah, so I became a drag queen at Jojo's when I was 21, I think, and it was because I met two drag queens on their lunch break who'd come to the Dome where I was working. It was a really quiet afternoon, and I was chatting to them. They weren't in drag, but I was chatting to them, and they were really friendly. And I said, "What do you do?" And they said, "We work round the corner at Madame Jojo's cabaret bar." And I was really, you know, I'd been thrown out of drama school. I wasn't getting any work on stage, and I didn't ever think about it being drag or dressing up as a woman. I was just like, it's a job. It's a stage job.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do. They got me an audition, and a week later I was a showgirl around the corner in fishnet stockings.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing we've talked about with previous guests on the show. It's a good thing while you're doing these sort of, as they say, resting jobs, in between jobs, if you can have a job that has some sort of connection to what you want to do, be it location or be it that it's got some performance element or something like that. So you're not completely out of the game.
No, and I did actually stay at the Dome whilst I was working at Madame Jojo's because the money was blooming awful. And I would do it in drag. I started working there as a waitress rather than a waiter.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I wasn't allowed to handle food, I don't think. I wasn't officially. I mean, I did. But but I was more a meter and greeter then. So I would do that early in the evening, then go to Jojo's and do my cabaret show because I wouldn't have been able to pay the rent otherwise because Jojo's paid so awfully.
Yeah. Yeah. So that took you through to the start of your cabaret career. That waiting job.
Sadly, I left because I got attacked at work. I wasn't in drag. I was just normal, in inverted commas. And for some reason, and this shouldn't have happened, I was left on the floor on my own. It was late at night on, I don't know, a Friday or a Saturday. It wasn't very busy, but I shouldn't have been left alone completely on my own. And all of the offices were in the basement of this restaurant, quite far away, you know, down a flight of stairs and down a corridor. You can't hear what's going on upstairs. And that's where the manager was, and there was no one else on duty. And these men, I came to clear their glasses away, which I felt were finished with. There was some dregs in the bottom of one of the pint glasses, and this man took that as an opportunity to abuse me about my sexuality. But that turned into, physical violence and,
Really?
table being knocked over and me being pinned up against a wall by him and his friend. And there was no one there.
Really? Was this like late at night when people were
Yeah,
clearing?
yeah. It was quiet and nobody else came in, and there was they were the only customers left. It was like they planned it. It was like they were waiting for an opportunity to get at me.
Yeah,
just
they
because
just
I'm
needed
so
a trigger.
overtly gay.
Yeah. So what happened?
Well, I think I can't remember actually, but my manager appeared, maybe through luck. Maybe I'm shouting loud enough. I think it was just luck. I think he just came back upstairs. Thank God he did, because I don't know what would have happened if he hadn't gone back.
That's frightening.
It was horrible. So I didn't stay after that because I didn't want to be there.
No.
Yeah. And then I was working in cabaret and performing. But I still needed other jobs.
Yes.
For a long time. I mean, I didn't stop doing other jobs. And I mean, I'm 45 next year. I think I probably did other jobs till I was 30. 30 years old is probably when I can say, no, it's longer than that. 33 or 34 before I could say, right, I'm a full-time artiste. Yeah, so there's loads of other things. I worked at a cleaning agency. So I worked as a cleaner, first of all, for them. And this very strange company called Cell Clean. And they were, their advertising was really Nazi-like. It was just this sort of, it was the flyers.
Clean your house.
Yeah, it was weird. It was just like one of those adverts for, to encourage people, like the Land Army. It was based on the Land Army. And so this sort of army of women forging towards you on the front of this flyer. But instead of having, trowels or guns, they had a mop and they had a broom and stuff like that. And the company was called Cell Clean, and it's an agency, franchised. And so I was involved, can't remember wherever I must have lived at the time. I started off as a cleaner, cleaning people's houses, which is, endlessly fascinating because you just find dildos and porn and all manner of exciting things when you're at work. And then I ended up going to work in the offices of the head office in Maida Vale and training other people to work for us as cleaners. So one of the things that the company offers the client is a guarantee that all of the cleaners on our books have been trained in the same style and to the same standard, which sounds like a really good idea, on the face of it. But the reality of it is that people who already know how to clean, because they're human beings with arms, mostly women, mostly much older than me, who were training them, and mostly having been a cleaner in some shape or form, albeit not for us, for years and years and years. They had to come and go through this really patronizing 2-hour session.
This is a mop.
Yeah, literally. And we had these products which they were encouraged to upsell to the customers, which was color coding. So the yellow detergent and the yellow cloths were for the kitchen, and the pink detergent and the pink cloths were for the bathroom, and the blue one for somewhere else. And it was all about, trying to scare people into cross-contamination from one cloth to another cloth, which if you think now about single-use plastic and trying not to use things up, it's just so disgusting. It's so disgusting. But so the whole cleaning process, training process was about which cloth would you use now to go and clean the bathroom? Lady who is 20 years older than me and looks like she's going to stab me in the eye any minute. And the head office was actually the home of this madman called Martin that ran the whole company. I mean, I say madman, he now lives in a castle because he made so much money out of it. He retired at the age of 50 to a castle in Wales. And he lived in the filthiest house I've ever been in. It was absolute pit. And so he had this cunning idea that we would do the training in his house so that it would get cleaned regularly by the people I was training. So not only were they being patronized by somebody half their age who had much less experience as a cleaner, and not only were they forcing the clients to upsell and buy these products that they didn't need, but we were doing it in the nastiest of conditions. It was horrible.
It reminds me of when I lived in Japan. There was this American guy who kind of set himself up as like a super uber Buddhist. Right, and he offered these Buddhist retreats, but he was always talking about selling his screenplay about the story about this American guy. It was really, I don't think he was really sincere about it. But his retreats, I always remember, saw an advertising one, and what you basically did was you paid him money to go and spend a weekend of silence meditatively cleaning.
Oh.
So basically people just paid to silently clean his place.
There's an episode of Fleabag about that.
Really?
Yeah, she goes on a retreat with her sister, and the retreat.
Maybe she went to Japan.
You must have got the idea from there. And the retreat she's on is for women only, but they share a building or a garden with a retreat for men, and the men are all doing exciting things like having bonfires and beating their bare chests and running around a field, and the women are all just cleaning someone's floor.
Yeah. I just thought, this is amazing. He's just charging people to quietly clean his flat and
genius.
say nothing.
Genius.
It's a silent retreat. So even if you complain, he's like, no, you can't speak.
I could stay in and do that.
Yeah.
If I wanted to talk to nobody and get the house cleaned.
Yeah. So you did that for how long?
God, the cleaning agency, I worked for 3 different branches of the agency over, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. But it was very good because they were flexible with me if I got an audition or if I was in a play. And they were all right with me disappearing for sometimes an hour, sometimes a fortnight.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, I'm very grateful that they existed.
That's so often something that people have mentioned as a consideration.
Yeah.
The flexibility, because, when people call people up for auditions, they do expect them to just drop everything.
Well, that's right. My agent said to me the other, she called me and she said, "Oh, I've got this job that might be of interest to you, and we've put you forward." And she told me about it, and I said, "Oh, it does sound great, but I can't do those days." And she was quite annoyed with me, and sort of went in this big diatribe about the resources that she had spent in trying to get me that audition in the first place, which is true. They do. You spend time and money trying to broker a audition for somebody, and then so if they can't do it, you as an agent, I used to be one, so I know that you look a bit dumb, and you've wasted a lot of time and sometimes money as well. Now in this case, it was her fault because she hadn't synced our iCal calendars, which was supposed to have been done by then. So I'm not going to take any blame for it, but I know it's important, So to find jobs. Funnily enough, I was talking to my piano player about it yesterday, just before we did the Victoria Wood show, and we were talking about the idea of a 0 hours contract. We were like, well, what you talk? Well, I don't know why people talk about it like it's something new. It's been my entire life, 0 hours contracts. I've never had any guarantee of work or a sense of a stable your income. It's just like, that's what it's like to be an artist.
Yeah, you've got 0 hours or you've got some hours.
Yeah,
there's
but there's
between. Yeah,
there's no, just grab the work while you can. What's the fuss?
Yeah. So after that,
after the cleaning, I can't remember the order really. I sold ad space for a newspaper.
Oh, okay.
That's awful. It's really, really awful. You get put into this huge room just with banks and banks of computers and people on headsets, and you're all cordoned off by this like office divider, partition walls, and just all day you have to pick up the phone and do cold calls to people who aren't expecting to hear from you and don't want to hear from you, and just try and sell them advertising space in a newspaper. And it wasn't even a good newspaper. It was a really crappy one, and I was really bad at it. And in the training they said this is about volume. So if you get a no, just get off the phone. I remember them saying the person that says no is your friend, because at least you've got an answer and you can move on.
Yeah.
If the person that dithers and says, "Oh, can you send me more information?" or "Oh," maybe they're trying to be polite, maybe they don't know how to say no, but actually, if they're not being truthful when they say, "I'd like to know more information," then you're wasting, they're wasting your time.
And often those jobs are ones that are paid by the amount you sell.
Yes, absolutely. I think there was a small basic fee, because this was before the minimum wage, actually. Yeah. There was a small basic fee, but then you got a lot of your commission was your wages, like waiting and tips as well, and I don't think I ever made a single bit of commission. I don't think I made any at all. The longest conversation I had with somebody was I was a bit over it. It was about day 2 and I lasted for 3 days.
Wow.
I was rubbish at this, and for fun, just to sort of keep myself alive, I decided to put on a silly accent. So I picked up the phone and I phoned this person and I decided to do an Irish accent, which I'm not particularly good at. But I was like, hello, my name is Paul and I'm calling about some advertisements. I can't remember what I said. I hope I sounded a little bit better than I just did. Anyway, ironically, this person wanted more information and I had to talk to them for ages. So I had to keep up the accent. And then eventually they said, I've got to go out now, but will you call me back later and we can keep talking about it? I was like, I can't keep this up.
Without an accent.
And it wasn't until about a week later I suddenly thought to myself, they knew, didn't they? They knew I was putting on my... Yeah, they knew it was a fake accent and they just were, seeing how long
They probably thought
last.
your boss had had a word with you and said, I've just read a poll that says people think the Irish are more trustworthy.
So that's supposed to be true. I don't know if it's the Irish, but I think...
Scottish, I think, is the one that often comes out on top. But people like I don't know, it's kind of a warm accent, isn't it? Kind of like, I don't know, something that seems very
but also
reassuring
firm,
about.
Like they might turn on you at any minute and beat you to death with a glass of lager.
Yeah, it's a strong accent, isn't it?
I think
it's got character.
I think BT use a lot of Scottish people on their customer complaints department for that reason. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So it didn't last very long in that job. I worked at Ticketmaster for quite a while.
Yeah.
Did I work there for quite a while? It felt like a while. Ticketmaster is ticket sales, as I'm sure most people know, selling theatre tickets and gigs, but also art galleries and things like that. I remember we were doing sales for a big exhibition at the National Gallery for Monet. And you take any call. So you're sitting there in your booth with your headset on in your computer, and there's a little screen. When you pick up a call, there's a little screen that says what the customer is phoning for. And it can be S Club 7 at Manchester Arena. It can be Monet at the National Gallery. It can be going to see Cats. So it's huge, the different options that someone can be phoning up for. And you all get randomly all those different requests from customers, and then of course you have to quickly find that part on the computer system and deal with it. So you had to say something, you had to pick up the phone, and you had to pick up the phone within 2 rings, otherwise you got into trouble. Yeah, and you would pick up the phone and you wouldn't use your own name, because that was so you had to have a fake name.
Oh really?
Yeah, they recommended that you don't use your own name, so that if you got an abusive customer, you didn't feel as upset about it or something. Yeah, it was really important that you had so I wasn't called Paul. I can't remember what it was. I think it was called Richard or something. So you 2 rings and you pick it up and you go, hello, my name is Richard. This is Ticketmaster for the National Gallery or for Wyndham's Theatre or whatever it was. So first of all, you've got to remember what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's right. This is Ticketmaster for the National Gallery, and I'm Richard. And I said that same phrase about 70 times one morning on 70 different calls, the day that this exhibition for the Monet exhibition for the National Gallery happened. And I got to the stage where I was so bored of saying it that I picked up the phone and went, this is Ticketmaster for the National Gallery and I'm bored. How can I help you? They didn't even notice I'd said it.
Really?
Yeah. Well, if they did, they weren't bothered. They just carried on. It was really... I mean, it doesn't really happen now, because probably when I worked there was 200 of us doing that job.
Yeah.
But most people will do it online.
Yeah.
And all of that data that we used to take and type in, people's name, people's address, people's postcode, and
they
all of
do
that
it
stuff.
for themselves.
The customer has to do all that work themselves now, I'm sure there is an option for phoning up, but you're probably left on hold for a blooming long time to encourage you to go.
Yeah, it's probably just one person in the office really stressed.
One woman called
Gladys.
Yeah. So yeah, you had to type it all in, and you had to make sure it was spelt right. Otherwise, they didn't get posted their tickets, because I don't think we emailed tickets out. I think everything got posted. So it was very important to get people's names and addresses right, and for your typing to be quite fast. And this is another story about the Irish accent, and people are going to think I've got something against it. So I spoke to this person from Northern Ireland one day, and we got to the part where I was taking their address. And I said, can I have your address, please? And they said, it's 44 Aurora Avenue. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, can you spell that for me? And they went, yeah, it's R. And I was too scared to ask again, so I just did my best. And I have no idea if they ever got the tickets or not. They probably never got to see S Club 7 or whatever it was.
Oh dear, life's ruined.
So I didn't last very long there either, unfortunately.
Well, the good thing is it wasn't your career choice to be a ticketmaster, so you can let these ones pass.
Yeah. I mean,
you can wave bye and think, I'll move on.
It's nice to be able to understand what someone's saying to you when you work in cabaret, and there's no fourth wall between you and the audience. But sometimes I just don't understand what they're saying. No,
do you get that when you sort of shout out to the audience? Hey.
Well, often because, of course, we currently we live in a beautiful multicultural society. I hope we do still in London in a couple of years' time. You get people from all different countries coming to see shows, and you might pick on a woman in the front row and go, "Hello, darling, what's your name?" And because of the name is not well known to you, and because of their accent, and because it's a live show, and you want to just crack on. You've no idea what they really just said. Mike Margaruthe. And so I basically have this new. I mean, I suppose some people would think it's quite racist of me, but it's supposed to be taking the piss out of me, not them. I will say to somebody, "What's your name?" And they'll go, Margaruthe. And I go, "I'm going to call you Jane, if that's all right, because it's quicker." But yeah, like I say, that's more about a dumb Englishman, not about them.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ticketmaster and.
Oh yeah, I am. Well, so I've been in my petrol station. I've been to Ticketmaster.
You've done the cleaning. You've done the waiting.
Cleaning agency. Been a waiter. I've sold fashion garments for a very brief period. In where was that? In Soho, actually. Yeah, for a Greek family who sold sort of. High-end, off-the-peg fashion garments. That was horrible. I didn't like that.
Was that actually in a shop or?
No, not a shop that anyone could walk into. It was to sell to other retailers.
I see.
So you could if you had a boutique, you could make an appointment to come and see the new line, the new range. I didn't know what anyone was talking about the whole time. Just talking about hemlines and different types of things being cut on the bias. I mean, I don't know
what's that.
What exactly? What is that?
I have no idea.
I presume it means that you prefer something to something else. I don't know.
Who knows?
So beauty products. There's a product called Protocol, which I sometimes see on the shopping channels now, but it used to be sold a lot at. Those big exhibition things at Earl's Court and Olympia.
Oh yes.
And
I think you still do a lot of those.
Yeah, if you ever go to a beauty one, there'll be this product called Protocol, and the big sales pitch to get people to come to the stand was there were these sinks all around the front of the stand in a sort of horseshoe, and you could try our hand scrub. So it's basically a pot of what was supposed to be sea salt from some impressive part of the sea, like the Dead Sea or something like that. It was probably just
from Morecambe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And with some lavender in it and a nice colour. And you're supposed to put that all over your hands and then wash it off, and your hands are supposed to be feel all glossy and there's a lovely coating of film between your hands and the outside elements to protect you. And it's one of those products that when you first put it on, you go, "Oh, that's really, really lovely, that." And then 20 minutes later, you go, "I'm just covered in crap. I want to wash my hands again." It's quite a weird product. So yeah, I got a lot of products given to me, as well as being paid not very well. I got a lot of products. So I had a lot of salt hand bonuses, scrub. Yeah, hanging around in my house for a long time. That was quite good. I quite liked that. I don't mind, being at those exhibitions and selling things to customers, because there's something more immediate about it as opposed to.
A lot of people seem to quite like those. Well, it's quite short term as well. It's finite, isn't it?
Yeah,
just do it for a weekend.
Yeah,
done.
Absolutely. I mean, if you were one of the preferred people to work for them, you could spend entire life every Thursday, Friday, Saturday going around the country doing, Manchester one week and Birmingham the next week and then London the next week. I mean, I didn't want to do that.
No.
So luckily I wasn't that popular with them. But yeah, it was fine. It was fine. And it's unlike, doing the stuff on the phone, I suppose a bit like the difference between making a TV program and performing live. There's an immediate connection, more of immediate connection with the customers, and you can see them and they can see you, and you can have, I don't know, it's not that you can't have banter with someone on the phone, but the ad agency and Ticketmaster, it was just really everything was against the clock. everything was about how quickly you picked up the phone and how many people you got through, and numbers. Whereas when you're face to face with a customer, it's okay.
It's more human.
Yeah, it is more human. And I think it's accepted that the sale is almost secondary to having a chat,
the interaction,
making someone feel comfortable, and interacting with someone. Yeah,
I find on phones you tend to get frustrated faster because somebody will say, "Oh, the computer says," the classic computer says no, and you start to like the phone, and you feel like you can't. You feel like you're almost talking to a machine, even though you're talking to a person.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you feel like they're just saying stock phrases sometimes, what they've been told to say.
Yeah, well, you are given a script for most of these jobs, and you're obliged to follow it. And they do like to employ actors because we're used to to making a script our own. But it's still a script, and you're still to stick to it, which is limiting, and customers can get frustrated. I think. I mean, I do as a customer on the end of the phone when you feel that you're just being forced through a script, and what you might want to say or who you might want to talk to if you're making a complaint is completely.
You often feel like the person you're talking to, that at some point they're going to send you up to somebody else. You just want to skip that whole section and just
I do.
Like jump to like the boss level.
Yeah, if
you're like on a computer game, get to level 11
and their job is basically to be a gate to stop you from.
They're
getting
like cannon fodder.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've done that. I was on the not sales, but I was on the team at a company that sold cable TV for BT back when the cable TV was a thing, and we were like the first people you get through to when you're called up. So we didn't really have any power to sort people out. We'd often just talk to people for ages before we put them through to somebody better who could actually sort them out. And it often just...
And was it... So when you were talking to them, was it to try and prevent them from having to talk to somebody higher up? To save their time.
I could sort things out. I could book a repair or something through the system and things like that. But if they had something that properly needed sorted, where they needed somebody to make a decision, like an executive decision, to say, no, we're actually going to do this, we're going to sort this out for. Didn't have that kind of power to do that. So you often felt like I should really just send them through to the right department straight away. And be done with it. But obviously they wanted you to go through a whole rigmarole of getting them to answer all these questions and go through all this stuff first, I
mean, when I had this issue with PlusNet recently, so I was getting internet for my Airbnb property in Margate, and PlusNet's catchphrases will do you proud.
Okay.
They did not do me proud. They are awful. If you're thinking of getting the internet, don't use them. They're terrible. I mean, obviously I'm aware that, problems can happen and mistakes can be made, but the way the customer service afterwards and the way they dealt with it and spoke to me was terrible. So my tip is avoid at all costs. So when I was speaking to them to try and sort it all out, I was trying to be, because it's not the person on the end of the phone. No, that's
fault. The thing. It's not them.
You
get frustrated.
They're not the operator, the engineer that didn't turn up, or the engineer that didn't do the work properly, or whatever. And you're also aware of that they've only got a finite amount of power and things that they can do. So I try and save time, and I just say, look, I want to be put through to your supervisor, please, at the beginning of the conversation. And of course, they'll ask me why. I said, look, I know I'm going to have to repeat this all over again to your supervisor. So could you just, save both of our time and put me through straight away? Because I'm not giving in. I want to speak to your supervisor. And sometimes that works, and sometimes, usually, it doesn't. So you end up saying the same thing about 5 times, what your name is, what your account number is, what the reference for your complaint is, when you had your order taken or not delivered, and can you tell me what the issue is? And have you got notes on your computer? Because I keep being told that you've made a note, or you're recording this for training purposes, but yet I'm repeating myself 5 times, 6 times to try and get this sorted out.
It's one of the first world problems that we all face, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it's not a first world problem, is it? It's a smokescreen. Yeah, it's just a delaying tactic in the hope that you will get bored or run out of time and stop pursuing the complaint / refund,
So often I've just felt, I'm just giving up.
Yeah.
I've been half an hour on the phone.
Exactly. And that's what
it's
they
not worth
want.
it. Yeah.
That's what they want. Because how many of us have got the luxury of sitting on the phone and being on hold? I mean, the average, I'm a serial complainer. Yeah. I will pick up the phone, quite quickly for very little, and be furious and want a refund of some kind. I'm quite brilliant at it, but it takes a really long time to do, and you can be on hold just 20 minutes trying to get through to a human being, and if you've only got an hour for lunch, Monday to Friday, then how many people have got the time?
You often find yourself weighing up how important the issue is versus the time,
and that's what they want. That's exactly what they want. It's disgusting, and it needs to stop. In fact, I'm thinking of starting a business where I basically phone up and make complaints and get refunds for people. I think you just have to give me your password, your date of birth, and your mother's maiden name. Good at that. And I'll just put on an Irish voice and pretend to be everybody.
That'd do it. Yeah, the Irish voice is a winner every time.
Percentage of the refund.
Yeah, brilliant business plan there.
Maybe that's what I'll do while I'm resting from now on.
So, moving on from that.
Yeah, I was thinking about what I've been doing since I made a TV program, because it's strange when you make TV. You get recognised for about 3 months afterwards. And then somebody told me this before I made Altogether Now, or after we filmed it, but before it was on TV. Series 1 was on TV in 2018, early last year. They said, oh yeah, you've got... Like it was a challenge. They said, you've got 3 months, basically. I was like, what do you mean, to live? What are you talking about? And they said, no, you've got 3 months to make something of this opportunity.
Yeah.
And I wish I could remember who it was that told me this, because it was such a strange way of putting it. I was like, I still don't know what you mean. They went, well, you'll be recognised for 3 months. And then after that, that's it. People will stop remembering that you were on telly. So the programme was on telly in March for about 6 weeks. And then the contention was that for 3 months from the end of those 6 weeks, you would be recognised and, of interest, and potentially could do something with this opportunity to make more programmes or get more work, in your chosen field. And bugger me, they were absolutely right.
Yeah.
They were absolutely right. I mean, almost to the day, I remember thinking, right, it's been 3 months since the programme stopped being on TV. Like, taxi drivers stopped recognising me. People stopped replying to my emails. It was really weird. People stopped staring at you in the street and in the supermarket. Woman in the supermarket was always chatting to me and asking how I was. She forgot. It was really, really strange. And then you wait another year until your programme comes out again. And in that time, you just get used to going back to being normal, and you're not being talked to by strangers, and not being glared at by little kids in shops, and not having abuse hurled at you on Twitter. And you just go back to how your life always was. And then you make the programme again, and then it comes out again. And then it all starts all over again. And for 3 months, you're, just people are aware of you. And you've got to live in between those times. You've still got to pay your bills and pay plus net for doing nothing, and eat and stuff like that. So it's been weird, and I haven't done any resting in inverted commas jobs, but I have done things which have had a smaller or less glamorous platform.
Yeah.
And people, I don't have any shame or problem with that, but other people think it's weird.
Really?
Yeah. So I give talks to women's institutes.
Right.
I travel around Hertfordshire, Surrey, London, a couple of other, Essex, and something else, Hampshire. And I'll go to a village hall in the middle of nowhere. Just get on a train and go. And sometimes they pick me up from the village hall, one of the ladies, and then we'll go to village hall, and I'll give my 45-minute talk, which is my life story as an entertainer. It's called The Life of a Travelling Showman, and it ends with me singing a couple of songs on the ukulele, and I'm in full costume, like the Greatest Showman costume, which I've been doing for longer than the film, by the way, and makeup and stuff like that. And then we all have tea and cake and talk about jam and stuff.
Sounds lovely.
It is lovely. It's most of the WIs I have met, and I've done it about 50 times now in the last few years. They're really wonderful groups of ladies, and I have a really nice time with them. And they ply me with cakes to take home for my husband, and I get about 150 quid for 45 minutes work. And what's wrong with that?
Sounds like a
Do you know
beautiful,
what I mean?
pleasant way
I
to
went to the
make
provinces.
extra money, yeah.
I went to the middle of nowhere to entertain some people, rather than them having to come and see me record a TV program, or come to London to see me in a cabaret, or or not get entertained at all. And I love doing that. It's one of my favourite jobs, especially because often they're in the afternoon and I can be home nice and early.
Yeah.
But other people think it's strange.
Really?
And they think that it's bad for my brand or something, and that I should hold out for a more glamorous venue or a better paid job. And I mean, I do want to work in bigger, more glamorous venues. I do want better paid work than that, but I don't think that's bad.
Universal.
I don't think that's badly paid at all.
No,
it's
it's
£2,
especially for doing
£2 a
something
minute,
so
is it?
nice.
So 45 minutes, £150. What's that? Is that?
Well, yeah. So it's about divided by 45.
Yeah.
Into 150.
How much
it's
is
almost
that per
three
minute?
times.
Yeah.
It's almost £3 a minute.
£3 a minute. I mean, that's better than minimum wage, isn't it?
It's good, yeah.
So I don't mind it at all. But yeah, once in a while I think to myself, oh, should I do this? Should I stop doing them? Should I turn them down? The only times that I get annoyed is when they haven't arranged for me somewhere for me to get changed.
Oh, the classic.
Yeah, so it's really strange. I've never ever had a rider my whole career, and like I said earlier, I'm 45 next year, and I've been doing this since I was very, very young. And I've had to start saying to my WI ladies when I write to them, have to sort of like point out what I think is bleeding obvious, that I've been travelling sometimes a round trip of up to 6 hours to get to them, and I will have a full costume and makeup to do, and I'll need to tune up my ukulele, and I'll need somewhere warm, dry, with a plug socket and a table and a chair, adult-sized chair, because you wouldn't believe the amount of children's
School
chairs.
halls, yeah.
Like a child chair.
Yeah.
And they just leave you in this room, and you're going, really? Do you expect me to sit on that for 45 minutes now whilst I prepare to entertain you? And just things like, can I have a glass of water? Is anyone going to offer me some water? It's really strange. So I have to spell that out. But that all came about because I kept being thrown into the disabled toilets to get changed. And in a disabled toilet, there is usually no heating, no table, and no plug sockets. So your phone's run out of charge before you've even got home, and you can't lay out your suitcase or find a flat surface to do your makeup or anything like that. And
plus, what if somebody who's disabled wants to use a loo?
Yeah, right, exactly. We didn't think about that at all. So and then the worst one was this wasn't a WI, it was a Salvation Army. Somebody from a WI told somebody at Salvation Army that I did my talks, and they asked me if I'd come. And so I went to Barking, to a church in Barking, and they put me in a storage cupboard with a lot of dry and canned goods and a mouse trap. And there was no plug sockets, there was no heat, and I don't think there was even a light switch, actually. It was and it was winter. It was really, really horrible. I was just like, this is bullshit. Why am I in a cupboard here? And I thought, no, from now on, I'm going to have to be really clear about just some basics. Not fluffy pink.
It's not
towels.
a prima donna request, is it?
Not M&M's.
Kittens.
M&M's with all of the orange ones taken out. It's just
classic.
Just remember I'm a human being, and remember that in order to do this, to entertain you as well as I can for the next 45 minutes, I need some
preparation.
Yeah, just a little bit of preparation. Yeah. So I guess that's my most recent anecdote from when it's not resting, it's still entertaining people.
It's still entertainment,
yeah.
It's just it's just not TV, which is the thing you've been doing a lot of recently.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope I'll do more TV, but if I don't, I don't. It's just people would think that. Well, I think I thought that the program was going to, make my career take off in a way that it hasn't already, and that's not. That's not the way it happens, if it is, my career didn't take off, it reversed in the departure lounge instead. It's just incrementally things bit by bit happen. Altogether now has meant that millions of people have seen me on TV, and I've got more followers on my YouTube channel, and I have got more gigs from it, and the phone does ring more often, but I haven't got an agent. And nobody can remember who I am because it's been more than 3 months since it was on telly. So, you just go back to hosting cabarets and creating your own theatre shows and talking to women's institutes. And luckily, I'm very lucky and glad to be able to say that I do the things I want to do.
Absolutely.
Mostly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people tend to think that just an appearance on TV is like the holy grail that's going to change everything.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it's just not. I mean, if you look at all the people who've won the X Factor,
yeah,
who are they?
Many of them. I mean, some people have really made the opportunity, work for them, and many others it's fallen by the wayside. And I think often, I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I think about these X Factor and Pop Idol people, and I wonder how many of them have sat around and sort of waited for something else to happen rather than be proactive. Because that's the mistake I made with series 1 of All Together Now. And before I made All Together Now, I made 2 other TV programs were on Sky Living, so about 3 people saw it. I made this really strange thing called Bigger Than, and then the name of a pop star. So it was called Bigger Than Britney was one episode, Bigger Than Beyonce, and it was a different pop star for every episode. And it's car crash TV. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was a mixture of a lookalike competition and a weight loss program.
Interesting.
So you got a bunch of girls that would look like Beyonce if they lost 4 stone, and we've created a short list of the best 3, and they went on the same diets and fitness programs that the real Beyonce has done.
Right.
And then there's a big makeover, and then there's a finale.
Big
and
reveal.
We choose who the winner is. And I was one of 2 judges on that. So I made that. And then I just, went home and just sat going, where's my BAFTA? I didn't do anything. I didn't write to anyone and say, I've just made this program. I've had a great time doing this. I'd like to make more programs. Please consider me. Please give me some advice. I didn't write to any agents. I didn't do anything. I just sat there assuming, right, that's it now. I shall be famous.
Yes. I think you've got to capitalise on these things.
Yeah.
It's just the assumption that somebody out there is just going to say, hey, that guy's on TV. I'm going to call him now and I'm going to create a TV show especially... Yeah, who does that?
Well, you
hope somebody out there's doing that.
This is the thing. You hope that it's like. Oh, do you remember that program Quantum Leap?
Yeah.
I suppose it's a bit like, maybe this will be the
quantum leap of your
home.
career. Yeah,
yeah. This will be the one where I sort of break through, and I don't think there is a breakthrough moment for most people. I think it happens in increments, and bigger than the experience of making it was a good experience for me, and I learned a lot about making a TV program. And 2 Nuns and a Whippet saw me on telly, and then I made something with Mary Portas, which again I learned a lot from, but it ended up on the cutting floor. The whole episode didn't end up on TV, but I made some more TV, and that's on the CV. And then All Together Now has done what All Together Now has done, but it hasn't meant that I'm getting a biography out this Christmas, and I haven't got a mansion, and the show's been cancelled now.
So that leads us on to what do you plan for the future? What's next?
Well, unlike the last time with Bigger Than and the Mary Portas program and the first series of All Together Now, when I found out that series 2 was going to be the last series, I thought, well, I'm not just going to wallow. I'm not going to be upset about it, because I mean, I'm glad I made the program, but I'm glad I'm not going to be making a 3rd series, if I'm completely honest with you, because it's tricky being in a panel of 100 people.
Yeah.
Especially when you're put in a hotel in Wigan and have to go on a coach from Manchester every day with them all to get to work. As much as I love them, they're quite loud.
I can imagine.
So I thought, no, I'm not gonna just sit around and do nothing. So I'm very fortunate that my husband's old career was in TV, in distribution, and he's still got lots of friends that work in TV or that just have contacts in TV, and he's because he's so well loved and such a decent man, they have been very kind in us reaching out to them and just helping to get me some interviews and talk to other TV companies. So I've spent this summer going around to independent TV companies pitching my own TV format ideas as vehicles for myself. And I'm not really allowed to say any more than the last interview I had went really well. They have created a treatment alongside of myself, and they are going to start pitching it to TV channels next week.
Great.
So that might mean no more WIs. And it might mean that every TV channel in the whole country goes, that sounds awful, we don't want any more of him. I don't know.
You just don't know.
I can say I tried. I can say I didn't just sit at home waiting for the phone to ring.
But that's a common thing from talking to people, is the experience that if you just sit around and wait for somebody to come to you with an idea, or you with the job, or just, you know, they stereotype, just sit there waiting for the phone to ring. It isn't. And so many people have talked about how they've really helped their careers by actually kind of coming up with ideas, pushing themselves forward, getting in there in those 3 months, or you know, because you have to.
Yeah, I mean,
you do all the other things that you have to do to keep yourself going.
That's right.
But you can't let go of the reins of like chasing, like, you know, what you want.
I mean, every agent I've ever spoken to my entire life, the first thing that will come out of their mouth is, just because we now have, you know, you're going to be signed to us doesn't mean that you should stop being proactive and looking for work, etc., etc., etc. I've heard that for over 20 years from, you know, lots and lots of people. And luckily I am proactive. Many people will say that I helped to create the new cabaret scene in this city in the last 20 years. I mean, there's also a lot of younger cabaret performers who will say, who the blooming hell is he? I've never heard of him. But, you know, that's because they're young. And they need to think that they created it. That's all right. They need to have an ownership of it. But, you know, I was doing a lot of stuff where I was being proactive and setting things up and making things happen for myself and other people too. So why not try and do that with TV?
Because of course I've seen you as a performer, but I also know that you've done a lot of producing of shows and setting up your own shows.
I've produced, I've promoted, I've been a booker, I've run venues, I've been an agent. I've done it all. And most of it's blooming awful. It's better being creative. It's much better being creative.
But I guess it's all, you know, part of a great experience of, you know, everything you do kind of leads you to where you are now in a way.
Yeah, and like I said earlier about, you know, my experience of working in the hospitality industry and being a waiter, I hope that having been an agent, having been a booker, having been a promoter, I can see it from the point of view of those people when they contact me about work. You know, when I was an agent, you would maybe you have a client who's looking for a fire eater, just off the top of my head, and so you contact somebody and you ask them if they're available and interested, you know, and sometimes, unfortunately, the person that you want is more expensive than what the money that the client's got to spend. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's just the way the world works. We have Waitrose, we have Aldi, you know, and people cut their cloth to what they can afford. But unfortunately, sometimes as an agent, you have very, very nasty conversations with performers. I'm not trying to pick on fire performers in particular, but just as an example, where they're furious. I mean, furious and swearing at you and telling you that you are everything that's wrong with the industry and that you shouldn't even pick up the phone to a performer unless there was a minimum of X amount available, and that you're bringing the whole thing into disrepute and nobody should work for that little. And you're going, oh, right, love. Well, number one, it says on your form here on our computer that you will consider work from X amount. So that's why I phoned. So first of all, update your blooming, entry in our computer before you start swearing at us. But more importantly, what about, thank you very much. That's a little low for me, so I'm going to say no this time.
Yeah.
What's the swearing about? What's the anger about? And also, do you think I'm ever going to want to give you to a client to represent me when you speak to me on the phone like that? Good Lord, how short-sighted is that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you think, well, you know, it's not the best attitude.
No, it's a terrible attitude.
So and I don't want to send these people out as representatives of you.
Exactly, and I wish... I don't want to be misrepresented here. I wish all people in the arts got paid more than they do. I wish that for every one of us. I mean, if I told you how little we got paid on Altogether Now, you would fall off your chair right now. It is disgusting how little we got paid. And I told the programme so. The amount of hours we did, it equates to less than minimum wage.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But because we're self-employed, there is no minimum wage and they can do what
they like. You said it yourself,
So it's not that I don't want better for us all and the industry, but I do think that we can stay calm and polite whilst lobbying.
You're actually giving them the choice.
Yeah.
You say, do you want to do this?
Yeah.
This is what it is. Do you want to do it?
This customer is an Aldi customer. Is that all right with you? No, it's not. I'll stick around and wait for the Waitrose customer, please. All right. Well, look after yourself. Thanks very much. You know, why couldn't we have had that conversation?
I don't know. Everyone's so angry now.
God.
We live in this age of,
I know.
Instantly just getting to.
But I get it. I have been too. I still am sometimes. But, you know, reputations get around quickly, don't they?
Yeah, I guess so. Especially in the showbiz world.
Yeah, everybody knows.
Everybody. It's true. Everybody does seem to, you know.
Things I said and mistakes I made when I was 22, I'm sure doors are still shut to me because of it. And it's taken me a long, long time to realise that.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of mistakes and been very silly. Hopefully I'm growing up a bit.
So on that note, because we've just about reached the end of our chat here, we've been speaking for an hour.
Have we?
Yeah. Would you say that you've got any kind of advice for people in your field, in the cabaret performance field, you know, about sticking with it, about, you know, the things you have to do, you know, if you were speaking to your 20-year-old self?
Oh, I mean, I'm really tempted to say don't do it.
Yeah.
If I'm really my first job when I was a kid, when I was 15, I was working in the Cathedral gift shop in Canterbury, where I'm from, and the actress Patricia Routledge came in. She was actually making a film about a nun, about a famous nun. I can't remember the nun's name now. Hildegard Bingham, I think.
Okay.
And she came into the gift shop when she was had an hour or two off from filming. And I really loved her from her character Kitty from the Victoria Wood shows in the 80s.
Ah, yes.
And I was over the moon that she was in my shop, and I basically, you know, chased her around the shop talking to her because it was a very quiet day. And I remember selling her a rubber and a ruler and a tea towel and saying, "Oh, I think you're marvelous. I love you, and I want to go to drama school. I want to be an actor." And she said, "Well, good luck. If you take my advice, you won't bother, but good luck." and I was a bit hurt because I really loved her and I wanted her to say, "Oh, well, you know, you'll be fabulous." But she didn't. She was a little bit, I don't know, acerbic about it. But I understand now because it's a really hard life. And a lot of people say if you can do anything else, do it rather than this. But my real answer, which I'll finish with, is will it be fun? If you can find the fun, if you can stay happy, then keep doing it. But when it stops being fun, what's the point? We've got I'm not trying to declare that I'm dying of cancer or anything, but when I say that none of us know how long we've got on this earth. You know, you might be the last person I talk to. This might be the last bit of sunshine that I can see. And so if we're not going to have some fun with what can easily be quite a bleak, miserable world, what's the point? Because there's no guarantees. You know, you probably won't be famous. You probably won't become a millionaire from doing this. And if those are your reasons for doing it, then don't. Take Patricia's advice and don't.
Yeah.
But if you are really passionate about creating stuff and the arts as opposed to fame and fortune, just keep trying to make it fun.
Great advice. Well, Paulus, that was a pleasure, and thank you ever so much for joining us. It's been lovely to chat to you.
And you.
On While I Was Resting.
Thanks for having me.
While I Was Resting.